When you're out and about, exploring new country, you never know exactly what you're going to come across. On this particular day, as I hiked across a marsh, I came across a remarkably intact airplane wreck. It had clearly been here for a while, but I definitely had to go check it out. It also became immediately evident that I wasn't the only one that had found this wreck. Probably hundreds or even thousands of people have visited over the years. When you come across something like this, you can't help but wonder what happened. I did a little bit of research, and this is the story. It was October 1968. This EC-47 was needed in Southeast Asia, probably Vietnam or Cambodia. The crew of 4 left McChord Air Force Base on their way to Anchorage. About 5 hours into their flight, they lost the right engine. They determined that the nearest airfield was a Coast Guard station over 100 miles away. They immediately changed course and headed for that airfield. They had a hard time maintaining altitude, but continued to work their way towards the landing strip. About 25 minutes into their flight towards the landing strip, their left engine also quit. Despite numerous attempts, they couldn't get either engine to restart. As they lost altitude, they spotted an opening in the clouds and headed towards it. The decision was made to ditch the aircraft in the water rather than parachuting into dangerous and mountainous terrain. However, as they set up for a water landing, a large marsh appeared through the opening in the clouds. They left the landing gear up and approached the marsh at about 90 knots. Initial contact was made on both wings almost immediately on 3 separate stumps. The aircraft then traveled approximately 430 feet, maintaining a fairly straight direction. At this point, the right wing completely separated. About 20 feet after the wing separated, the plane hit another stump, which caused it to swerve to the right fairly dramatically. Remarkably, there were no injuries to the crew, but now the crew was stuck on the ground in a camouflaged airplane. About 30 minutes after the crash, communications were made with the rescue aircraft, and shortly afterwards, an amphibious airplane landed to pick up the crew. One of the crew members stayed behind to guard the classified components of the aircraft until he was relieved by the Coast Guard the next day. Eventually, the cockpit of the aircraft was removed, most likely to secure this classified equipment. As far as I can tell, the actual cause of the airplane crash was never determined, but the fact that both engines quit within a reasonably short period of time lends credence to the hypothesis that it was probably a fuel-related issue, as this is the time when the plane would most likely be switching from auxiliary to primary tanks on their roughly 9-hour flight. I thought this was a pretty fascinating story, although I was glad that I was just visiting it on my own terms, and not because I had to find a hole in the clouds and put down in a southeast Alaskan marsh.